Hey everyone, and welcome back to Step Forward. Looking back over the past while, I know you've been through a lot. The endless work, the after-hours classes, the social events you can't avoid, and countless moments of frustration and heartache. You can't even count how many times you've complained that work is too exhausting, feeling fed up and thinking, I don't want to do this anymore. You know deep down you don't like this job, but next month's food bill, the following month's rent, your aging parents, your young children, reasons like these won't let you quit. When you hear those encouraging words out there, follow your dreams or do what you love, you feel a surge of motivation, but right after, you're back in a fog of uncertainty. Because many people genuinely don't know what they love to do, and they're not sure if their dream is worth pursuing. So, faced with a job they dislike, many people just punch in, wait for the clock to run out, do the bare minimum to get by, and wait for their paycheck at the end of the month. This repetitive cycle leaves you feeling tired, bored, and even miserable. The truth is, life is incredibly short, but not all of us can pursue our dreams. There are too many obstacles and anxieties that make us feel like life is tasteless and meaningless. So, what do you do to stop feeling so bored? How can an ordinary person make life worthwhile? How can you experience a life worth living? For this toughest question in life, a 90-year-old woman has an answer. That woman is Nakamura Tsuneko, the author of the book I want to share with you today, This Life is Worth Living. The original Japanese title roughly translates to The Habit of Making Peace with Your Heart and Doing Everything Well. Nakamura Tsuneko is the oldest practicing psychiatrist in Japanese history. Born in 1929, she worked diligently for 70 years, and even at 90, she had no intention of stopping. She wasn't a professor, nor had she ever published an academic paper. In fact, she was very ordinary. Perhaps in many people's eyes, she had no business publishing a book, nor did she need to. And when an ordinary person writes a book, the content can sometimes feel like chicken soup for the soul. To be honest, before reading this book, I had some of those same worries. But after reading it, I was incredibly surprised, because I knew I could learn so many valuable life philosophies from Mrs. Nakamura. A woman who had lived through the dust of war and the changes of an era, she could see through everything in the world, through all the ups and downs of 90-something years, yet she was still full of fresh vitality. In the end, she could still say, even if I were to die, I have no regrets. This life is worth living. Like a small book of philosophy on how to live, written with her 90 years of life experience, this book will give you sincere advice on work, relationships, and happiness to guide you through the difficult stages of life. And ultimately, it will make you realize that no matter what, you can absolutely live a life that is worthwhile and valuable. 1. Working for money is natural. What's there to be ashamed of? There's an old saying, men die for wealth as birds die for food. But often, whether the attitude of working for money brings positive or negative results really depends on our mindset. Mrs. Nakamura was born in a rural area of Japan into a family of 5 siblings. Her father was an ordinary elementary school teacher. Because the family was large, not everyone could go to college, and like many other families where she lived, her parents' favor and affection were always reserved for the sons. As a daughter, she didn't even have the right to choose her own life. At 16, she had only 2 paths before her, either get married or become self-sufficient. At that time, Japan was facing a severe shortage of psychiatrists. An uncle of hers who ran a clinic in Osaka said that if anyone wanted to become a doctor, he would cover all their school expenses. For Nakamura at that time, this felt like a chance to get an education without having to start working so early, so she decided to leave her hometown to Osaka. In the end, she passed the university entrance exams, completed her studies, and became a doctor. From her educational experience, we can see that her choice to become a psychiatrist wasn't driven by interest or passion, but simply because she couldn't refuse the opportunity life had given her. Deep down, she didn't like this job, but she had to keep working just to support herself and her family, and also because if she didn't become a doctor, she didn't know what else she could do. Because of this, her heart was full of conflict and suffering. In contrast, the lives of her 2 younger brothers were much smoother. They were supported by their parents, got to do work they loved, and earned high salaries. Faced with these 2 different life paths, she felt a great sense of injustice, but was also completely helpless. In reality, many of us are in a similar situation as the author. We don't like our jobs, but have to rely on the salary from them to survive.
Not everyone who graduates high school knows what they want to do. After graduation, you go through the tough process of job hunting, get hired, but only after starting do you realize you are not a good fit for the job. There's no such thing as a perfect job in this world. Every job comes with unavoidable pressures. Maybe to win a contract, you've had to smile, bow, nod, and do your best to deal with the most difficult clients. To have a full-time job, you have to throw yourself into rush hour every morning, rain or shine, and can't afford to miss a single day, even if you're sick. Every job has parts that make us unhappy. However, when pushed to the extreme, a person can suddenly feel a sense of relief. Mrs. Nakamura soon had an epiphany. If thinking, "What's the point of this job?" makes you feel bored and miserable, it's better to just tell yourself decisively, "I'm just working to earn a living." Working for money isn't a bad thing. It's completely natural. In her 70-plus years as a psychological counselor, Mrs. Nakamura heard countless complaints from patients. They were bored and tired of their current jobs, but in reality, they didn't know that the reason their work made them so miserable was because they didn't understand the true nature of work from the beginning. The author says that no matter what the job is, at its core, people work to live. In other words, supporting yourself and your family is the primary purpose of work. You know, we spend more than half our lives working. If you have too high expectations or think too heavily about it, you'll easily become disappointed and anxious. And when you're tied down by things like salary, status, fame, and recognition, you'll blindly care about others' opinions, tone, and gaze. You'll worry about anything that makes you uncomfortable or doesn't go your way at work. Over time, you'll feel suffocated and exhausted. If this situation continues for decades, sooner or later, you'll be worn down by your job and drowned in a sea of misery. The author advises that people shouldn't place too many expectations on their work. Whether you're a new employee or have been working for a long time, don't overthink the tasks your boss gives you. Just try to do them well first. When you frown and think, "This job isn't right for me," no matter who you are, it will only increase your anxiety and make you feel like you don't want to continue. So whenever we face any task, we should maintain a "let's try it first" mentality. Don't give up too quickly. See it as an opportunity to train yourself. Even if you can't love your job, at least get the thought, "I hate this job," out of your head, and try to do your best. Before turning 88, Mrs. Nakamura worked 6 days a week, and every day was busy. Many people who saw this assumed she must love her job, but that wasn't the case. In her 20s, she worked to support herself. After getting married, her job was the foundation for building a family life, so she was determined to keep working. She went through decades with this mentality, day after day, and work became a part of her. It allowed her to gently go with the flow, letting life unfold as it would. For her, thoughts of being tired because she wasn't doing a suitable job were completely unnecessary, because in a person's life, the probability of finding a job you love is like winning the lottery. Instead of worrying about, "I haven't found my ideal job yet," it's better to work hard at your current job first, and who knows, one day you might find a more suitable one. In reality, the secret to whether life is worthwhile or interesting or boring lies entirely in whether you are willing to make peace with yourself. When faced with a destiny with no other choice, it's better to gently accept it. Be cheerful in your work. Be enthusiastic about your profession. Remember, we don't work to seek a sense of recognition. Work is simply about earning money to continue experiencing life.
When you're 70 or 80, you'll realize that winning and losing, glory and decline, are just clouds passing by. They don't represent your worth. There are many things more important than that, like your family, your health, your inner self. Having food to eat, clothes to wear, a roof over your head, a job to support yourself. Having a life like that is enough. After work, putting in your best effort to complete the tasks at hand and contributing to those around you without seeking recognition might bring wonderful surprises on the next leg of your journey. 2. Sometimes you need to walk away decisively.
In reality, many people are still struggling to maintain the status quo. I'm not young anymore. If I quit my job now, what about my elderly mother and young children? I have to keep going. What will the environment and benefits be like at the next company? Can I find a better job than this one? As soon as these thoughts flash through their minds, the decision to quit is put on hold. Mrs. Nakamura advises us that if there's no way to change things, then work cheerfully and diligently. But if you are truly too tired and have the choice to act, then walk away decisively. Among the patients she saw, some were bullied at work, some were harassed by their superiors, and some didn't even have time to sleep, working late into the night. What's astonishing is that these people refused to quit, even when they were physically and mentally exhausted. If you feel too troubled by your work environment and your health is declining, don't hesitate. Stop at the right time. After all, the nature of work is to earn a living. A company or organization is a place that provides a tool for people to make money. If this tool excessively binds your precious life, it's really not worth your time. However, there's one thing I want to emphasize, as I've said in many previous videos. Many people advise you to follow your dreams and do what you love. But that doesn't mean you should blindly follow your feelings. When can you make an active choice? It's when you are fully prepared and ready to take responsibility for all the outcomes of your decision. If you quit your job without knowing how you'll eat next month or how you'll pay rent, if you decide to leave your current job to open your own shop but don't have a certain amount of capital and have to borrow money and pay interest, then you are not fully prepared. Just like the book Side Hustle on the mindset of having a side gig points out, the way to prevent your job from becoming a chain that binds your life is to run yourself like a company. Don't rush to quit your main job. From a business perspective, this would be an extremely risky move. A company can't rely on just one product for its income. Usually, a company has a stable source of income and then uses that money to develop other products. Running yourself is the same. Your salary is the stable income of your company. You should take good care of this income stream and then, relying on its stability, develop a second source of income or save money so that in the future you'll have the time and conditions to develop another career. Therefore, bravely breaking free from your current job can be a motivator for life change. However, you need to have full responsibility and preparation before making that decision. If not, then cheerfully accept your current situation. Any honest work can make money, but no job can make you exhausted. The only thing that can bring you down is your own mind. 3. Don't struggle through life. Relax and go with the natural flow. In swimming competitions, we often hear the crowd cheering, "Go, a little more power." People always mistakenly think that if you just use all your strength to push against the water, you can overcome its resistance and quickly reach the other side. However, hydrodynamics proves that the more force you use, the slower you go. The nature of water is that however much force you give it, it will give back to you the same amount. Life is like a river. If you are gentle and relaxed, you can move forward more easily. In the book, Life Doesn't Need Too Much Effort by Yuki Takahashi, there's a very true line. There are two common regrets in life. One is not doing what you could have done, and the other is having to put in too much effort. Effort is a prerequisite for success, but if you push yourself too hard, it will backfire. After reading this book, you'll see that the author is a person who lives with a wonderful degree of relaxation. It is this gentleness, this going with the flow, that allowed her to experience a life worth living for over 90 years. So how can we gently ride the currents of life without struggling and still move forward easily?
According to the author, first, you must lighten your own load. Mrs. Nakamura believes that the unnecessary baggage that's making your steps heavy and difficult is expectations. The first piece of baggage to throw away is having too many expectations for yourself. Others can do it, so I must do it too. I must succeed to make my family proud. In reality, the deep-seated reason you push yourself so hard to meet these expectations is that you admire someone else's life or are constantly comparing yourself to others. When you're young, setting expectations to motivate yourself to work hard isn't a bad thing. But as you mature, we must learn to understand ourselves and slowly let go of the thought, I want to achieve more and more. Because whether you have a life of advancement or a simple one, a life with children or a single one, if you only compare yourself to others, you will never find the right answer. As a psychiatrist, Mrs. Nakamura clearly saw many patients who, on the outside, had admirable lives, but on the inside harbored unspoken pain. A company owner with a thriving business who was exhausted both physically and mentally. This person faced relationship problems and indescribable loneliness. Or a beautiful young woman with a talented husband and well-behaved children, but because of her friends' envy, her friendships fell apart and she developed insomnia. Another young woman married into a wealthy, prestigious family, but because of troubles in a relationship with her mother-in-law, she felt miserable. In her 70-plus years of experience with diverse fates, she deeply realized that the more prosperous and successful people appear on the outside, the more they actually endure pressure from more complex personal relationships than ordinary people. Life's troubles don't disappear as money and status increase. Therefore, instead of admiring others through comparison, forcing yourself to move forward to get this and that, and ending up anxious and miserable, it's better to accept your current situation and optimistically step forward at your own pace. Mrs. Nakamura believed that others have their lives and you have your own orbit. In her more than 70 years of work, she never compared herself to others, never cared that a younger doctor in her unit had a higher position, never felt resentful seeing a colleague provide better treatment. She believed that life satisfaction is not decided by outsiders, and she never pursued a life like someone else's. Only in this way can we live a life that is truly our own and worth living. The book The Courage to be Disliked says, it doesn't matter if we are ahead or behind. The truth is, we are all on a path that is not a vertical axis. We are constantly moving forward, but not competing with anyone. The value lies in constantly surpassing ourselves. When a person truly lives according to their own values, not because they admire someone else and force themselves to meet many expectations, then even if they only emit a flickering light like a firefly, even if they can only illuminate a small corner, that person's life is already truly valuable. Besides expectations for yourself, the second piece of baggage to throw away is expectations for others. If only my parents treated me better. Why don't my children listen to me? Why does he always do things like that? Such desires will always be a mess cluttering your mind. At 27, the author quickly married through a matchmaker, but after living together, she discovered her husband was an alcoholic. Whatever money he earned, he spent on himself, while she had to support the whole family alone. In the era Nakamura lived in, divorce was rare and children of divorced parents would be criticized. For her children's happiness and her own physical and mental well-being, she had no choice but to adjust her own mindset. She lowered her expectations for her husband to the point of, as long as we can stand next to each other and speak at our children's weddings, we are still husband and wife. After setting such a goal, she was able to completely relax. In her, you'll see that patience is different from endurance. She said, life often requires patience. If you understand this truth, you will no longer try to endure, but will think about how to make yourself more comfortable.
When her second son was 5, she returned to work at the hospital and asked her parents to look after him. But after her parents took control of the household, other problems began to arise endlessly. How to educate the grandchildren had to be decided by the grandparents. They also let Nakamura's college student brother move in. As a result, she and her husband constantly had conflicts with her parents. Overwhelmed with work, a chaotic home life, if she demanded too much, anyone would collapse. At this point, she could only lower her expectations for others and set a limit for herself. In the worst-case scenario, as long as it's not below average, that's enough. She didn't expect her children to be raised perfectly. She didn't expect her work to be outstanding. She didn't hope for a harmonious relationship between her parents and her husband. She just needed to reach a level slightly above average. The rest, she let nature take its course. Eventually, this difficult period passed. In 10 years, she became an excellent psychiatrist professionally, and her children all grew up well. Later, when her children were all married and had their own kids, her husband, as he got older, became more gentle and even acted like a good grandfather. Indeed, we all hope for a harmonious marriage, a happy family, 3 good meals a day, and 4 peaceful seasons. However, the life of an ordinary person is often unstable and chaotic. Faced with this reality, we can't fight against it with all our might. We can only go with the flow by lowering our expectations for others. Don't make it hard for yourself, and don't force those around you. The rule of this world is, if you aim for the top, you'll get the middle. If you aim for the middle, you'll only get the bottom. If you aim for the bottom, you'll get nothing. And when you don't achieve what you want, greed, anger, and delusion will arise. Therefore, stop asking, lower your expectations, and don't have illusions that people and things will go your way. This is the wisdom of living a life that is worthwhile. And in fact, to easily let go of this burden called expectations, the best way is to live with low desire and embrace solitude. Mrs. Nakamura was someone who pursued nothing beyond the basics of life. She dressed neatly and politely, didn't carry expensive bags or wear fancy accessories. She didn't chase after gourmet food and had no desire for shopping. She said, "If you and your family are healthy, full of energy, and have a close friend to talk to, you don't need anything more extravagant." After living through so many years, she understood clearly that in this world there is no environment or person that can satisfy you 100%. Even if you enter what you consider the most ideal workplace, after a while there will be things that you find boring. Or even if you marry the person you think is the most perfect and happy, later on there will still be things you find hard to accept. In reality, whether it's parents, family, friends, or a lover, others aren't always concerned about us. Even a child you love with all your heart will become independent and start their own life when they grow up. Even a person you give your all to love can leave you. So for all the people you meet in this world, for everything you want to have in your hands, the best way to get along is be happy when they come and let go when they leave. The book 6 Lectures on Solitude says, "Solitude is the beginning of a complete life. If you don't have experience being alone, you won't know how to get along with others. Maybe forcing yourself to shed some baggage will make you feel insecure and afraid of being alone. But when you embrace solitude, you will no longer have too many expectations for others. When you have fewer desires, you won't even bother comparing yourself to the world. In this way, your life will be free of chains that bind you, and you can live freely, in harmony with yourself and those around you." 4. Whatever you encounter, it's all worthwhile. One of the quotes that stuck with me from this book is, "Life is a journey of only going forward, never backward. Therefore, be grateful for every scene you see on this journey." This is also the life experience I have gathered over so many years. Be grateful for everything that comes and goes in life. When you live with gratitude, no matter how hard or boring your job is, you will cherish every moment. You are grateful because at the very least, this stable job allows you to sustain your life. When you live with gratitude, you will also have more trust, a sharper sense for the warm, flickering lights in life.
Just as Haruki Murakami said, you must remember the people who held an umbrella for you in a heavy rain, the people who held you quietly in the dark, the people who made you laugh, the people who talked with you all night. Whether it's someone who cares about you or a stranger you've never met, you will remember what they did to help you. You will remember their presence and contribution that allowed you to continue experiencing this life. Whether what you receive is bitter or sweet, you will no longer grumble and think about who got the better deal when asked to do petty, unreasonable tasks at work. Just try to do the job at hand well, contribute to those around you, become a reliable person in your work and life. Then you will verify that what the English writer Ruskin once said is absolutely true. Doing your best for others is ultimately the best thing for yourself. However, you need to be careful. Proactively taking on tasks is not the same as deliberately pleasing others. Sometimes you need to be aware of whether you're helping someone achieve something, and then know how to say no at the right time. Finally, when you live with gratitude, you will no longer sigh at difficulties, but will thank these challenges for sharpening your will. Mrs. Nakamura believed that everything has two sides. Painful experiences are to expand the nature of a person, just like muscles need to be trained and stretched. The fruits of life will not appear immediately, but in every moment there is surely something we need to cherish. Be grateful for life. Don't expect things from it. Then, no matter what, you will see that this world is worthwhile, and we are living a life worth living. Thank you for listening. If you found this video helpful, please share it with those who need it. Don't forget to give me a like, hit the subscribe button, and turn on the notification bell to catch the latest videos every week. Once again, thank you, and I'll see you in the next videos.